The lawsuit letter arrived on a Tuesday morning. Sharp and threatening like a slap. Daniel Reyes stared at the HOA letterhead, his hands trembling against his wheelchair armrest. Sunlight glinted off his rooftop solar panels, the very panels now under attack. He had installed them last spring. Proud of the savings and the clean energy, Diane Foster considered herself the moral compass of Brookfield Estates. She marched across lawns uninvited, clipboard in hand, judging every imperfect blade of grass. To her, or that clashed with her precious aesthetic vision. Daniel had served 2 tours overseas before a roadside explosion changed his life forever. He returned home determined to live independently. Proud. His injuries. The solar panels meant lower bills. Dignity. Out. Diane saw none of that. Only a violation of her precious community guidelines. She fired off warning notices. Fines. Against his home. Neighbors whispered nervously, watching Diane intimidate anyone who dared question her authority. Daniel felt his chest tighten, frustration bubbling beneath his calm military composure. He had fought for this country. Yet here he was fighting his own neighborhood. The irony stung worse than any physical wound he had carried home. His daughter Mia asked nervously if they would lose their house. Daniel forced a reassuring smile, though doubt gnawed quietly at his resolve. That evening, across the kitchen table, searching for answers. Something about the boundary lines on his survey map looked strangely unfamiliar. He traced his finger along the property edge, heart suddenly pounding with disbelief. His home, the plat map, sat just outside HOA jurisdiction. Could it be possible the so-called Brookfield Estates Homeowners Association never actually governed him? He sat back, staring at the implications glowing under his desk lamp. Diane had been harassing him for months over rules that might not even apply. Anger flickered briefly, replaced almost instantly by sharp, focused determination instead. He needed proof. Something undeniable before confronting the woman terrorizing his family. The next morning. Office. Papers clutched tightly. Clerks pulled old documents. Dusty folders revealing the neighborhood's original 1978 development plan. There it was. His lot excluded from the HOA boundary. A clerical anomaly. Decades old. Had somehow slipped through unnoticed until now. Daniel's pulse quickened as he photographed every page with shaking, determined hands. He thought of every fine, every nasty letter, every cruel notice taped to his door. Diane Foster had spent months bullying a man she had absolutely no authority over. He allowed himself a small, satisfied smile. The first in many stressful weeks. Outside, mirroring the storm quietly building inside Brookfield Estates. Daniel knew exposing this truth would not be simple or peaceful. Diane's reputation depended entirely on her image as the all-powerful neighborhood enforcer. She would not surrender power without a vicious, embarrassing fight. Still, battles than spreadsheets. Fines. He gathered his documents, called his attorney friend, and prepared his quiet counterattack. The next HOA meeting was scheduled for Thursday evening at the community clubhouse. Diane planned to publicly shame him, finalizing the lawsuit before all the neighbors. Daniel planned something entirely different. Something she never saw coming. Thursday evening arrived heavy with humidity. Neighbors filing nervously into the crowded clubhouse. Diane stood at the podium, radiant with self-righteous authority, gavel resting beside her. She cleared her throat dramatically, eyes scanning the room for her intended target. Daniel wheeled himself through the door, his attorney friend Sarah walking calmly beside him. Whispers rippled through the crowd, curiosity mixing with quiet sympathy for the veteran. Diane smiled coldly, certain she was about to crush another disobedient homeowner publicly. She began reading the violation notice aloud, voice dripping with practiced moral superiority. The solar panels violate our community aesthetic standards, she announced with theatrical disdain. Daniel listened patiently, jaw tight, on his lap. Sarah leaned over, whispering reassurance, reminding him their evidence was airtight and powerful. When Diane finished, she demanded immediate removal or continued daily fines against him. Daniel raised his hand calmly, requesting permission to respond before the assembled neighbors. Diane smirked, confident nothing he said could possibly change anything. He wheeled forward, placed his folder on the table, and opened it slowly. Before I respond, he said, bored. Can someone explain exactly which governing document grants authority over my specific property? Diane blinked. Is calm. Unexpected. She fumbled through papers, insisting his lot was obviously included like every other home. Daniel shook his head gently, sliding copies of the county plat map forward. According to this 1978 recorded document, he said. Next. Gasps rippled through the room as neighbors leaned forward, suddenly riveted with interest. Sarah stood, legal counsel representing Daniel's veteran-owned property. She explained the clerical exclusion clearly, citing statute numbers with practiced, confident precision. Diane's face flushed red, her composure cracking beneath mounting public scrutiny. That's impossible. Gripping the podium edge for unstable support, Sarah calmly produced certified county records, distributing copies among stunned board members. The treasurer began flipping frantically through outdated association membership rosters. Diane interrupted loudly, insisting paperwork errors didn't erase years of established community standards. Daniel's voice remained steady, though something fierce burned quietly behind his eyes now. With respect, you fined and threatened a man outside your jurisdiction. You sued me, and mocked my service publicly. The room fell silent, neighbors exchanging uncomfortable glances at Diane's reddening expression. Someone near the back murmured, "She did the same thing to the Patels." Another voice added quietly, "And to that immigrant family on Maple Street too." Diane's controlled facade crumbled further as murmurs grew louder throughout the clubhouse. Sarah pressed forward, citing potential damages from wrongful harassment and improper legal action. Diane's hands trembled slightly, panic finally breaking through her usual icy confidence. "This is outrageous," she snapped, mounting public pressure. Daniel remained composed, watching years of unchecked power finally beginning to crumble. He thought briefly of Mia, hoping she'd someday understand fighting quietly still mattered. Outside, echoing the storm gathering steadily within the room, Diane glanced desperately toward the board, searching for support that no longer existed. The treasurer avoided her gaze, suddenly fascinated by papers scattered across the table. Daniel closed his folder calmly, sensing the meeting's true climax still approaching quickly. Diane straightened her blazer, attempting to regain control over the unraveling meeting. "This changes nothing," she insisted sharply. "The lawsuit will proceed as scheduled." Sarah stepped forward again, voice calm but carrying unmistakable legal authority now. "Actually, continuing this lawsuit would constitute knowing harassment under state law." Gasps rippled through the crowd as neighbors realized the seriousness unfolding before them. Daniel watched Diane's confidence shatter completely beneath the weight of undeniable evidence. She turned toward the board, demanding immediate support, receiving only uncomfortable silence instead. The board's vice president finally spoke, voice trembling with long-suppressed frustration. "Diane, your conduct for almost 2 years now." He listed incidents quietly. The Patels, single mothers fined unfairly. Each name landed like another crack splitting open Diane's crumbling public image. Daniel felt something unexpected settle inside him. Not triumph. "This was never about solar panels," he said firmly. "It was about power. Control. In this neighborhood." Diane opened her mouth, but no defense emerged from her trembling lips. Sarah announced she would formally file complaints regarding wrongful association governance practices statewide. The board voted unanimously to dismiss the lawsuit against Daniel immediately. Applause erupted unexpectedly, neighbors finally finding courage to celebrate openly together. Diane stood frozen, gavel slipping silently from her trembling, defeated fingers. Within weeks, an oversight committee opened a formal investigation. Diane was removed from her position, banned from future board leadership roles. Her own neighbors now filed complaints detailing years of quiet abuse. She watched as the community she once ruled completely turned away. Daniel's solar panels remained exactly where they always belonged, gleaming proudly under sunlight. Mia asked if they were safe now, eyes wide with childlike hope. Daniel smiled gently, promising her their home was finally, truly protected forever. Word spread quickly through nearby neighborhoods, inspiring other families facing similar HOA injustice. Sarah began representing several homeowners, citing Daniel's case as powerful, hopeful precedent. Diane eventually sold her house quietly, leaving without neighbors saying proper goodbye. Daniel sometimes saw her drive past, Eyes forward. Distance. He felt no satisfaction in her downfall. Only quiet relief. Justice finally arrived. That autumn. Gathering celebrating community healing and renewed unity. Children played freely across lawns once monitored obsessively under unnecessary cruel scrutiny. Daniel watched Mia laugh freely. Finally unburdened by fear haunting their previous months. He realized resilience meant more than surviving war. It meant protecting peaceful life. Standing against abuse required patience. Evidence. Mutual justice. Power unchecked always grows cruel. Comfortable. Consequences. But truth eventually rises, demanding accountability from those who abuse trust. Daniel's story became a reminder that courage sometimes means simply gathering documents. Justice does not always arrive loudly. Sometimes it arrives through quiet determination. Neighbors who once stayed silent learned the power of standing together. Finally united. Diane's downfall taught the community that authority without compassion eventually collapses completely. Daniel watched the sunset reflect warmly across his solar panels. Finally feeling safe. His daughter squeezed his hand, whispering proudly, "You fought for us, Daddy." He nodded quietly, understanding some battles matter more than any uniform ever could. The neighborhood healed slowly, proving even broken communities can rebuild trust together. And somewhere, and brightly, symbolizing resilience, dignity,